Peace, shalom. So, shalom, peace. Rest in peace, William Gardner. Rest in peace, every other fallen soldier who lost their life in the midst of this frequency war. This video is going to be pretty much covering all the cappery associated with, or that's since been released, and covering, this most recent police killing. So if you're not familiar with the story, just continue to watch. But just the basics, last Monday, should have been August 5th, I guess, around, between the 9 and 10 o'clock hour. So from what I can gather, and I beg somebody, like, at the end of this video, like, let me know if you get a different interpretation. Police was just riding around, saw a group of Nagas, and they said, okay, these guys, like, let's press these, this random group of Nagas out. I'm sure you used to hearing the word niggas, whether I say niggas, Nagas, niggoos, I'm all, the definition is God. So if I say Nagas, niggas, black men, gods is the meaning. So let's just want to get that out of the way. Anywho, yeah. So police, saw a random group of gods on a corner and said, let's press them out. Let's go for them. We might strike black gold here. And, if, as any group of Nagas would do, they dispersed. And I guess, I'm just going off of what they, their cappery. William Gardner took off. And I don't want to hear all that they saw he had a gun stuff. Like, I don't think anybody knew he had a gun. Like, maybe as he was like running, maybe he was like clutching it. So like halfway through, or like right before they caught up to him and hopped out and let off. Like maybe one officer had an inclination that he hit, like, but I don't. It doesn't sound like they knew why they were chasing him. It sounds like they pulled up, and I try to make my my summary is already long, so forgive me, but it sounds like they chased the one who ran. They cornered him. And when they caught up to him, they shot him. I mean, that's pretty much what I can. I get it. Like, you'll see why I'm like struggling to like fill in details or conjecture, because the police are already doing that. Obviously, in favor of them justifying why they shot. Yeah, like, so I'll just go ahead and start with the press conference. This was the first press conference that was released. You can see the background. It's still, so I don't know what time it was, but this was like that night. So I'll play that, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and play that start to finish. I'll play it again. I'm sure you're probably gonna need to like run that cappery by me one more time. So I'll play it again, and at that point I'll interject, my thoughts. And there's like two much shorter videos that I'll play for you that came out shortly thereafter, that the press conference that I'm about to play. And there's just more added cappery and just murkiness. And you would think that as details get sorted out, and as facts get separated from opinions, and story statements get made, like, you would think just common sense wise, right? Like as more time goes by, um, you get more clarity, but you'll see again why I'm hesitant to add my conjecture because the police commissioner and is doing enough for all of us. And yeah, it's just you would think, open shut case, there would be no conflicting details, right? Like if it's we're just going with an open shut case, black guy had a gun, black guy pointed it and or shot at police, police shot back, and the story, like it wouldn't you would think that like okay, we've heard that narrative before, right? That would be like crisp, that their stories would be a lot crisper. I'm gonna just let it rip, and then we can figure it out together.
No, the camera. Like this. Who, there he is. Come on. He tried. Come on, bro. I'm like, is somebody listen? You dragging your feet. What you doing?
All right, everybody ready? All right. Good evening. Joining me here tonight is Mayor Brandon Scott, Deputy Commissioner Brian Nato of our Compliance and Public Integrity Bureau, Deputy Commissioner Kevin Jones of our Operation Bureau, and Chief Akani from our Public Integrity Bureau. Approximately 9:15 this evening, officers were patrolling the area of North Stricker Street. They saw an individual who they believed to be armed. They wanted to engage him. The victim suspect took off running. Officers gave chase. When they caught up to him, there was a brief struggle, at which point you see a weapon in the suspect's hand. Other officers get out of the car. They engage the suspect. They open fire, shooting an individual. Individual falls to the ground. Our officers immediately render aid. Unfortunately, the young man has been pronounced deceased on the scene. He has still not been identified yet. I believe it was three officers who fired. Aid was immediately rendered. Um, there was a gun recovered on the scene. At this time, we've activated our critical incident recording policy and are working alongside the Attorney General's office in this investigation. As you can see, we're still very early in the investigation. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Mayor Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. As we always do with these police involved shootings, we will go through this bit by bit. This is very early in the investigation. We want to be clear that none of us wish to ever be here for a situation like this. And we're grateful tonight that there was no further injuries to our officers or any other community members. We know this community will need to heal. We'll be doing, as we always do, a neighborhood response from Muncie when there's a police involved shooting. But I want to implore any and everyone who may be in a similar position to put down the guns. There's nothing good going to come of it for you or your family. We have to have a understanding that there is a better way, and we're going to continue to provide better pathways for everybody in the city. But I implore people to understand that gunplay is not the way that anyone has to go in the city of Baltimore, and we will continue to be here in this community, and we'll see the investigation all the way through. But we are so grateful that there wasn't further injury to these officers or anybody in the community tonight. Thank you.
At this time, we'll take questions.
I'll be taking the question. We're going to start with channel 2, then we'll go to 11. We'll work our way around this one. Mentioned that there were 3 officers that shot their weapons, correct?
Yes,
Do we know how many times the victim was shot?
we do not.
David?
Would you please describe the suspicious behavior that the victim was displaying that led police to the attack?
It was what we call characteristics of an armed person. And because the individuals who fired their weapons are the ones that saw that, they haven't given a statement yet. So that'll be recovered as part of the investigation.
And let me follow up. Would you remind everybody what those characteristics are?
There's several of them. You could be basically doing a security check with your weapon. The officers could have seen the gun, or they could have seen the outline of a gun under his clothes. There's any number of things that they could have seen that would have alerted them that the individual was armed.
What friends? Last,
No, boss, no questions.
they
Did
did
will you tell us what type of weapon and was there any modifications to it?
We don't know yet. It's still on the scene and hasn't been completely recovered, and we haven't completely examined it yet.
he left.
Was the gentleman by himself or was he with anyone else?
When it ended, he was struggling with one of our officers when the second group of officers arrived on the scene. He took off running as soon as our officers tried to engage him.
All right, so just I want everybody to like hang on, let me pause this next video. But what I would like everybody to do is before I even like start talking and like, adding what I feel are, or voicing what I feel like are just obvious, you know, inconsistencies. I want everyone who is under the sound of my voice like to take off the tinfoil koofies, like switch off the right hemisphere of your brain. Like, let's all approach this just from a sheer logic standpoint. Let's pretend that, we don't know that, there are such, forces such as racism and police brutality. We say police brutality, it's really police genocide, but let's pretend that, none of those things, like pretend you're brand new to the United States, and but that you're an adult, and that you have, just an average, reasoning faculty. Like, you don't have to be a 120 plus IQ, uh, you know, criteria guy to like participate in this exercise. Like, this is for all low IQ and high IQ alike. I want everybody to run through this non-emotional logical exercise. Think about, I want to play this, I'm gonna let this police commissioner speak again, and I want you to like think about what he's saying and what he's asking you to believe. Okay. Um, think about the fact that even in this is the first initial press conference. Like, all we know about this situation is what he is going to tell us at this point. And like, even in this 4 minutes and change video, he can't really like give us a straight, you know, straight through start, middle, beginning story like that makes sense and doesn't like set off your just most basic, you know, like BS meter, like that smells funny. Like, wait a minute, like you see if it doesn't offend your senses, offend your sense of, know what up from down is and left from right.
Um,
I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. All right, cut to see if I can cut more. Cut to the cappery.
Good evening. Joining me
Okay.
Here tonight is Mayor Brandon Scott, Deputy Commissioner Brian Nato of our Compliance and Public Integrity Bureau, Deputy Commissioner Kevin Jones of our Operation Bureau, and Chief Akani from our Public Integrity Bureau. Approximately 9:15 this evening, officers were patrolling the area of North Sticker Street. They saw an individual who they believed to be armed. They went to engage him. The victim suspect took off running.
Saw an individual who they believe to be armed. So officers were patrolling. Anybody who's been to Baltimore, like not like in a harbor, but I mean, like if you've crossed over like MLK going west, like I mean, you're in the hood. If you, you know, I'm thinking if you cross over President Street, pretty much, which turns into 83, going east. Congratulations, you're over east. You're in the hood. And I'm just as like for general purposes, like obviously, like so the east-west line, I would say starts at about Charles Street, but that's as far as like being in the hood, like so observing what I'm about to the picture I'm about to paint for you. Anyone who's ever been over east, over west, heavy drug area, not so heavy drug area, like you're gonna observe the same thing. City isn't but so big. If you see police, they're gonna be sitting in their cruisers. They are all in like Ford Explorers. Okay. Um, they rarely drive like the cars like sedans unless they're in like the unmarked what are they Chevy or excuse me they're Ford something. It'll come to me. Anywho, um they sit in those Ford Explorers and they sit and they watch people sell drugs all day, all night. They watch car accidents. They don't get out their car unless it's lunchtime or unless they're changing shifts. Um, you can pretty much, you know, sell whatever type of, illegal, contraband right in front of them. Um, they're not going to get out the car. They're not going to get out the car. Um, I had a past someone who's not from the state whatsoever with me, and one day it was raining and it was funny, so we rode past a heavy drug area, and again this day it was raining. We as in her and I, she's in the passenger seat, I'm driving, and she both observe excuse me, we both observe police watching some ambitious young young men selling whatever they were selling in like bright orange ponchos. So like it was as if to say like, hey, like we're still outside. Like don't worry, we're still here. Like I just want everybody to keep this in perspective. And this is just the first dose of cappery. This is just the first batch of cappery. But I'm painting this very detailed picture, and telling you everyone a story just so they can like have a clear type of visual in their head of like the lack of policing or protecting and serving, or it's just lack of anything, lack of action that our taxes pay for. um when he's trying to tell you that one of these super cops saw an individual who they believe to be armed from their car. Okay, but again, like that's a true story. I'm not making this up. Like it was raining. I mean that's the end of the story. It was raining, and it's like if you didn't know, someone was selling whatever they were selling. you know if you didn't know that, like who was outside for what, obviously stand in front of stores and bus stops. So hey, I'm waiting for the bus. I'm just waiting for my friend to come out the store, officer. No, I'm not loitering. You know what I mean? Obviously, right? You have a good not alibi, but excuse. But like to have on a poncho, like you're clearly going to be outside for a while. To have it, I'm painting this picture for a reason. I'm digressing a little bit, but I want everyone to know, like if you're from Baltimore, like please, like testify. Let me know if I'm making this up, I'm embellishing, or like hey, like no, you're right. Like they don't do anything. You know what I mean? Like you can pretty much like short of killing someone on camera, like you got to try really hard to get like pulled over or not pulled over, but just what I mean. They don't do any police work. I digress too much. Anyway, so what he wants you to believe here is that from at night, excuse me, let's start there. At night, they discerned or some super cop discerned from his police cruiser, the corner of his police cruiser, presumably, it was wet that it was a humid night, so lack of humidity in the air at night in this police cruiser, he observed an individual who they believed to be armed. I can elaborate on that for a very, very long time. Like that's one of the like rather ridiculous sayings that like I don't. It doesn't bear like it doesn't need me to like spend that much time on it. Like again, certain things should offend your senses, right? An individual who they believe to be armed, could be me. It could be your 6-year-old son if he, scratches his wee wee. You know what I mean? It could be, your 12-year-old daughter if she's, pulling up her, her pants. Like, and it could be you, a 65-year-old woman, who's checking to like, make sure her pocketbook doesn't slip out of her purse. Like, if I'm a, trigger happy cop looking for any reason to like harass someone so I can get a quick statistic and meet this most quota. Anybody who's darker than a paper, a brown paper bag or darker, who scratches their left ass cheek the wrong way, can I can say I can make a case that they were displaying the characteristics of an armed individual. So like that's also what he wants you to believe is he, as in Mr. Richard Worley. I want to put names to these characters, these demons. Mr. Richard Worley wants you to believe that some police officer that works for the Baltimore City Police Department. I'm because they released his name. They released the names in a later video. So I'm presuming this one is Zachary Ullman, the name that they released later. Presuming that it's this one. They want you to believe that this guy has the best, has like eyesight comparable to Superman. And from, his police cruiser at night through the fog and humidity, he saw an individual. Well, he didn't see the gun, but he was there. He was sure enough that this guy was like displaying all the key characteristics, which again, when asked by a reporter later on in the interview, Mr. Richard Worley could only recite one of, but all the telltale characteristics. He said there's a lot of them. There's a plethora of them, displaying all the correct characteristics of an armed individual, and that's presumably this world's greatest eyesight detective, Mr. Zachary Ullman. After checking, after William Gardner checked off all the boxes of having displaying, the characteristics of an armed individual. This Mr. Ullman gave chase and signaled the hounds, and I mean, it really it from what I'm about to show you I'm going to shut up and let it play, but it looks really just looks like a drive-by. Start to play a little bit longer. Because it gets
Officers
offensive.
gave chase. When they caught up to him, there was a brief struggle, at which point you see a weapon in the suspect's hand. Other officers get out of the car. They engage the suspect. They open fire, shooting an individual. Individual falls to the ground. Our officers immediately run their aid. Unfortunately, the young man has been pronounced deceased.
All right, so try to be as concise as possible. When you want to again add when you want to be deceptive, like every word matters, and like someone who's like trying to be deceptive knows this. So like even just adding the word officers engaged, like that would imply that there was an attempt to do something other than shoot. As you'll see, like no such action took place. As you can see by their own body cam and by I guess it was like a ring cam footage that got released. Like again, you'll see how deceptive the word engage is when it's like you see they pull up and shoot. So you can either omit that word altogether, or like, I guess we are to assume that, like, what I'm saying? Like, you can omit that word altogether, and that statement would be this much more accurate. And everything that I'm saying right now would be like null and void, right? About that particular point. But like, this just like adds to my case of like, when someone is being deceptive, they're gonna add certain words. They're gonna use certain words. They're gonna phrase things and frame things a certain way, and like hope that your brain, makes like fills in the gap of their cappery with like, because that's what that's how the human brain works. Like, that's how the ego brain works. It attempts to fill in gaps. So like they want you to do that. And just simply by using the word engage, I mean, it's right. It's a dumb attempt, but right. This is, he wants you to believe, he's hoping that you make the leap and make the assumption that there was other action taken. No, like I said, it looked like a drive-by. It looked like the first guy that ran, who they cornered, they shot. They pulled. You'll hear the officer, I'm going to shoot. I'm going to shoot you. And then he shoots him. I'm going to let it rip. Come on.
Deceased on the scene. He has still not been identified.
Immediately renders aid. Again, the word immediately, deceptive. What you see them doing immediately is like securing the scene. Like you'll see there's his friend that kind of like runs up, and like just seeing his agony, he's crying. That's hard to watch. Also, along with like, the mother's, like his mother expressing essentially like how she died with them. It's like the three hardest things to watch. Those two, scenes, and the mayor and his apathy. I'll get to that in a second, but yeah. So it's funny. Like the very next video that came out after this was like somebody's cell phone footage of one of the officers giving CPR. That's in like a whole nother video, because again, in none of the videos that I'm going to show you do you see that. And so I'm going to release like a part 2 to this video, which shows the body cam. That would be like, so they released the body cam footage. I had a whole press conference around that, and like just trying to like include that with this one is too much cappery for one video. This video will be like 5 hours long, just dissecting. If I'm going to try to like get to all of it, so that's going to be a part 2. Look for that upload like shortly after this one. But yeah, like their body cam ends after like, you know, shortly after the gunshots. So immediately is like, again, if you just don't use that word, like everything else that he's trying to get you to like believe is slightly more credulous. But like, it might seem like I'm, like these are like the smaller details that I'm highlighting. Um, all details matter, and like it speaks to like a larger case of like just his overall deceptive, slimy nature, um, and what he wants you to believe. And then like I haven't. All right, so let me just go ahead and let this this mayor speak real quick, because I want to kind of like address the the journalists in both cases ask great questions. Usually, journalists, do what journalists do. They work for the media, and I'll end that statement there. But I will say that in this press conference and the press conference where the body cam footage was released, the reporters, shout outs to them and whoever they work for, um, they asked very poignant questions. And again, like when it's bad enough when you can't give us like a believable, coherent, cohesive story, start, middle, ending, that's like, concise and believable without just, you know what I mean? But then when under like further scrutiny of like Q&A, you just whatever house of cards like you were in the middle of trying to build, that it just immediately crumbled. And again, this is day one. I'm gonna let it play a little more.
Identified yet? I believe it was three officers who fired. Aid was immediately rendered. Um, there was a gun recovered on the scene. At this time, we
I'm gonna go back a little bit because it's just so much
believe it
cappery.
was three officers who fired. Aid was immediately rendered. At which point you see a weapon in the suspect's hand. Other officers get out of the car. They engage the suspect. They open fire, shooting an individual. Individual falls to the ground. Our officers immediately render aid. Unfortunately, the young man has been pronounced deceased on the scene. He has still not been identified yet. I believe
This is what I feel like is weird because I'm pretty sure they did identify him immediately, like after the gunshots. And why not just say, okay, he's a minor, and we're gonna withhold his name, and then they just like a day or later, the media ended up releasing his name. So they're telling you they don't know his name. Like these are the things that they're telling you they don't know. But in the same breath, they also want you to believe that from start to finish, hey, this is what happened. Clean cut, black guy with a gun, ran, pointed at police, police killed, justified. So just I want you to again, I want everybody to keep this in mind. What they know matter of factly, and what they'll speak about, like what he's like you see him speak with conviction as if he believes his own cappery. And then the things he doesn't know. Um, you heard him say a weapon has been recovered, and then later on in the video, a reporter's going to ask him to describe it. He's going to say, "Oh, it hasn't been quote fully recovered and or fully, explored or like whatever." You'll hear. Hang on.
I believe it was three officers who fired. Aid was immediately rendered. Um, there was a gun recovered on the scene. At this time, we've activated our critical incident
Okay, so there was
reporting
a gun
policy,
recovered in the
and we're
scene.
working alongside the Attorney General's office on this investigation. As you can see, we're still very early in the investigation. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Mayor Scott.
Thank you, Mr.
All right.
Commissioner. As we
So
always do with these police involved shootings, we will go through this bit by bit. This is very early in the investigation, but I want to be clear none of us wish to ever be here for a situation like this. We're grateful tonight that there was no further injuries to our officers or any other community members. We know this community will need to heal. We'll be doing, as we always do, a neighbor.
anyone watching this at home can time it, like from start to finish. I believe he spoke for 66 seconds, give or take. In that very short amount of time, we got a gun control PSA, and not one, but two very vocal outward expressions of gratitude that no police officers were hurt. So he doesn't mention the loss of life, like let alone the fact that it's a young melanated, kid that looks just like him, not that much younger. Like when Brandon Scott looks in the mirror, he should see William Gardner. So like, never mind all that. It's hard to tell based on like his mannerisms and the generic just apathy and just like if there's any palpable emotion in his face, it's like more of like an annoyance, like that he had to come down here and give this minute and change speech. But like again, like I said, it's like one of the most offensive things. One of the things that's like hardest to like, I guess, like when you really concentrate on it, and fixate your energy on it for a second, allow yourself to focus on it. Like, yeah, like you should be infuriated. Like his apathy should, allow you, if I mean, if I can use the word allow, like that's his apathy should enrage you. His lack of emotion should like invoke that much more passion and compassion in you, because there was zero sympathy and compassion in his voice, his mannerisms, his speech. This is a mayor. Like you would think like even like a racist old white man would like pretend to give a bleep. Like he would, find it somewhere, you know, beneficial for his like career or, for his image. All right, damn, I'm on camera. Like, let me at least pretend to care. As soon as camera's off, bleep this, bleep, fill in your blank. Like, you know what I mean? But this is kind of like leaking out. Like if you got anything from this blank, hollow ass public service announcement and like praise for the, like expression of gratitude for the, safety of the police. If you got anything from this, it should be that like this is how they really feel about you. This is how they really feel about you. Like there's no, you can't, it's hard to ascertain from his speech, his demeanor, that there's any loss of life that transpired. You know, there's not a mention of William Gardner. There's not a mention that they're not going to mention his name because he's a minor. You're not going to tell me that they didn't know, that they didn't, like nobody went and his wallet, notify his mother, and his mother didn't say, okay, he was, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to tell me none of these seemingly obvious, basic, protocol steps have been taken, right? So I don't know. It's just, to me, it's given like, I was almost like, I was almost done for the day. Like I was on my way out the office. Like, I was just about to put my phone on like, I gotta come down. Like, you know what I'm saying? He's annoyed. I'm gonna let it go. I'm talking too much.
A neighborhood response monthly when there's a police involved shooting, but I want to implore any and everyone who may be in a similar position to put down the guns. There's nothing good going to come of it for you or your family. We have to have a understanding that there is a better way, and we're going to continue to provide better pathways for everybody in the city. But I implore people to understand that gunplay is not the way that anyone has to go and see
Gunplay
the
is not the
We
way.
will continue to be here in this community, and we'll see the investigation all the way through. But we are so grateful that there wasn't further injury to these officers or anybody in the community tonight. Thank you.
At this time, we'll take questions.
I'll be taking this question. We're going to start with channel 2, then we'll go to 11. We'll work our way around this one. You mentioned that there were 3 officers that shot their weapons, correct?
Yes,
Do we know how many times the victim was shot?
we do not.
She asked him, "Do you know how many times the officer shot?" He does not.
Behavior that the victim was displaying that led police to the attack.
It was what we call characteristics of an armed person. And because the individuals who fired weapons are the ones that saw that, they haven't given a statement yet. So we have to.
This to me is like the $1 billion question. What the bleep? Let's do this exercise with me. Somebody. Family Feud. Steve Harvey. You know, he calls 2 people to, right? What are the characteristics of an armed person? Go. Boom, and you hit the buzzer. What do you say? Checking for the weapon would be like a good answer, right? That seems like the first answer what somebody say. Well, maybe that's what he said, security check, right? All right, cool. We'll give him that one. We'll give Mr. Worley, we'll give him that one, right? Now, anybody who's seen Family Feud, now you have a chance to steal, right? So, what's your next? Mind you didn't see it. You're someone who's displaying the characteristics of an armed person is doing what? If you said scratching your nuts, you could probably steal. If you said, looking for tissue in their purse, you probably stole. If you said digging for 25 cents because they were about to ask the next guy they saw if he had a loose one, your chances of like getting the number one answer are probably just as high. Like, I can spend so much time on this, but I'm gonna let it go. But yeah, the reporter asked Verb, like, what does that mean?
Covered as part of the investigation.
His answer is
There's several of them.
okay.
And because the individuals who fired their weapons are the ones that saw that, they haven't given a statement.
So, like, his first try is okay. Like when every time police, kill one of us, like they get like 3 days to get their story straight with the like union rep and all that. It's like they don't even got to give a statement. It's all types of like glove treatment that they get. That you and I and the average citizen don't get. But so like the first thing he wants you to believe is that he doesn't know what they saw that triggered this whole pursuit. Like that wasn't reported to him or like immediately, that wasn't the first thing he asked. Right. But then his next try is to justify this whole super cat, broad brush justification, new justification for like, pressing up your teenage son or daughter, harassing them. That's a stop and frisk. There's no difference in this and stop and frisk. if you can say I'm displaying the characteristics of an armed person, then you might as well, you know what I mean? Let's just bring back Giuliani stop and frisk. Let's bring that down here in Baltimore. It's no difference. Hey, you, dark skinned guy with the hoodie on. Yeah, all 100 of you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm. You hear the disgust in my voice.
yet, so that'll be recovered as part of the investigation.
So, first, we haven't got their statements yet.
There's several of them, but you could be basically doing a security check with your weapon. The officers could have seen the gun, or they could have seen the outline of a gun under its clothes. There's any number of things that.
So there's several behaviors that can fit the criteria of displaying the characteristics of an armed person. However, Mr. Worley can only provide you one before defaulting back to visual tells or signs, which would imply that somebody in the dark through humidity can see, you know what I mean, what a bulge on somebody, like through a group of individuals, mind you, which you'll ascertain. That's a detail that wasn't mentioned here. Again, part 2, body cam press conference. He says verbatim, yeah, pretty much random group of individuals. He says that this same guy, Mr. Worley, out of his own mouth, after looking to a superior, you know, with his, hey boss, he got us. Like he just goes ahead and says that. So this is what they want you to believe.
That they could have seen that would have alerted them that the individual armed.
No question. Can you tell us what type of weapon and was there any modifications to it?
We don't know yet. It's still on the scene and hasn't been completely recovered. And we.
So last obvious, poignant question, relevant. Again, like this relevant question and answer that should be an insult to your intelligence, to your senses. This should offend you. I'm going to go back to the part where he says there was a gun recovered in the scene, but this is his answer to the seemingly obvious, logical question. Hey, what kind of gun was it? Was it modified? Was it one of those, guns from Chicago that, those rappers rap about with the switch? Like this sounds like what the reporter was, where it was going with this question. Did it have was it a Glock with the switch that the Chicago rappers are doing drill music about? He says,
we haven't completely examined it yet.
Haven't completely recovered, haven't completely examined it yet. Hang on.
So we have to be recovered as part of the investigation.
And if you follow up, would you remind everybody what those characters?
428. My bad.
There's several of them. You could
My
be
bad. So
basically doing a
behind the
security
curtain,
check with your
I got
weapon.
notes.
The
I haven't been
officer could have
referring to my notes, but like it's.
Tell us what type of weapon. Was there any modifications to it?
We don't know yet. It's still on the scene and hasn't been completely recovered, and we haven't completely examined it yet.
Okay. Somebody, I need somebody's help. Somebody in the comments, what the bleep does completely recovered mean? Remember I said how one word can like add or like it can make you by the omission of one word or by the usage of one word. It can make you a more credible person, or it can add to the category. It adds another card to this badly built house of cards. So wait a minute, I got music going off in the background. Wait a minute. My bad. Anyway, yeah. So fully recovered. I'm leaving that in too. I'm not even gonna edit that out. Anyway, I'm gonna go back. So I think it's a minute and what is it? A minute, 1 minute 53. I'll make this. We're already running longer than I thought. So a minute 53. He feeds you. He says,
Three officers who fired. Aid was immediately rendered. There was a gun recovered on the scene. At this time, we've activated.
there was a gun recovered on the scene. You heard him. You heard it. The horse's ass himself. So 428. I'm gonna refer to my notes to wrap this video up. Before I ask him, what kind of gun was it? Every bad guy, cops and robbers movie you saw, when a police kills the quote unquote bad guy, what's the very first thing they do? They kick the gun away from him. Makes sense, right? One of their few procedures that they do, from my observations, like, on a repeated basis that like makes sense. For two reasons, right? A, obviously to prevent, because we've all seen the movie scene where like they think the guy's dead and the guy's not dead, and he fires off a couple more shots or like reaches for his ankle, his sidearm or whatever. So you want to eliminate that possibility. And then B, like if this guy did shoot at me, I wanted to make sure, like, okay, this is my evidence. This is what like keeps my job. This is what this is my whole existence at this point. This guy's gun. So like after you guys do whatever you need to do as far as like making first aid or like rendering aid, which they made a point of like saying that they did immediately, which was also cappery, which is like it's unnecessary cappery because nobody's asking you. If that was the case, we would be able to see that. So you guys use your own eyes on that one. But it's like I get frustrated because these are things they want you to believe. So if they, did what we see in every like movie, right? Like, okay, after their CPR, whatever, it's pronounced dead. Okay, cool. We can't bring him back. All right, y'all shot him 12 times. That's from what they said. Okay, he's gone. Pronounced dead. Where's the like? It seems like procedurally, right? That would be the next obvious thing to do. Okay, where's his gun? So they want you. So they want you to believe. He said verbatim there was a gun recovered on the scene. Then he also either he forgot he said it. It's like one of these things, right? Either he forgot he said it, he's flat out lying to you, or like, he thinks that you're dumb enough to like he wants you to believe this.
Activated our critical incident recording policy and are working alongside the Attorney General's office on this investigation. As you see, we're still very early in the investigation. At this time, I'll turn over to Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner.
I'm bad. DJ.
No, Fox, no question.
Or
Can you tell us what type of weapon and was there any modifications to it?
We don't know yet. It's still on the scene and hasn't been completely recovered, and we haven't completely examined it yet.
it's still on the scene. It hasn't been, quote, completely recovered, and we haven't, quote, completely examined it yet. What the bleep does any of that mean? A, what is completely recovered? What is so? Can you halfway recover something? Like I get there's a such thing as like halfway, like you can do a examination of something. Like, all right, so you can use that in that tense, but or that's applicable, right? But completely recovered? Did he have a gun or not, boss? Mr. Worley? Did you guys recover it or not? Because you said a weapon was recovered on the scene. And if you recovered it, like, again, all you guys seem like I'm sure there's an arms expert somewhere on the scene, right? Like a bunch of detectives, like you guys work with weapons. Like, you don't gotta, we don't need to know like who manufactured the bullets or like, how to what tenth of an inch, like the rifling is in the barrel. Like nobody's asking you that, boss. Hey, what kind of gun was it? You said you had a gun. What kind of gun was it? You know what I mean? He gave foot chase. Like we would presume it's something light. Like he's not running with a, like a AK-47, right? What kind of gun was it? We would imagine that after you killed him, after you just realize, he's deceased, that the immediate next thing that somebody would do would go secure the murder weapon. No. Hasn't been completely, fully. It's only been partially recovered. Like as if it's a dinosaur bone, boss. It's a dinosaur bone. We only partially dug it up. We don't know what kind of species it is yet, boss. Stop asking us so many detailed questions. We haven't gotten this part of our life straight yet. Is what you might as well just say to me, and I'd respect you more. Scumbag. Let's go. Next video.
At the corner of West Baltimore and North Stricker Streets, loved ones gather, including Mauricia Macon, her 17-year-old son, William Gardner, fatally shot by Baltimore City police. His mother not showing her face, but speaking out about the loss of her child.
Broken, numb. I feel like I died with him. I'm here physically, but I'm gone mentally.
The shooting happened just after 9 o'clock Monday night. Police say officers tried stopping a young person at a news conference, but speaking out about the loss of her child.
Broken, numb. I feel like I died with him. I'm here physically, but I'm gone mentally.
The shooting
Numb. I feel like I died with him. I'm here physically, but I'm gone mentally.
The shooting happened just after 9 o'clock Monday night. Police say officers tried stopping a young person. At a news conference that night, Police Commissioner Richard Worley said the young person exhibited characteristics of an armed person.
There's several of them. You could be basically doing a security check with your weapon. The officers could have seen a gun, or they could have seen an outline of a gun under his clothes. There's any number of things that they could have seen that would have alerted them that the individual was armed.
Worley says officers chased Gardner, caught him. There was a struggle, then gunfire. Gardner shot. Moments later, officers are seen in cell phone video obtained by Fox 45.
All right, so two things here, two takeaways here. I can't help but I'm going to try to spend as little time on this as possible, but I can't help but okay, so a security check, right? Again, I just real quick, Mr. Richard Worley wants you to believe that there are quote unquote bad guys out there with guns who do security checks, and so frequent that he can he's Like there's a name for it, right? So they want you to believe that, in every hood, ghetto, USA, there's bad guys out there with guns in their hip who like randomly just take it out and just check and make sure that the safety is on. Or like, they security check. What's the security? So I know Glocks don't have safety. So like, what are they like? What's the security check then? Like, let me I don't know, in the middle of a block, like right, like police cameras all up and down the block. So he pulls the gun out and he checks and makes sure. Hey, let me make sure there's not a bullet in the head, just in case something happened. Like, what the bleep is a security check? But again, I want y'all, like you guys figure it out. You got when somebody can let me know what the characteristics of an armed person is, you know, make sure you leave that in the comments. I only got a takeaway point. I won't get this part back real quick because it's just like this is more like about the media, right? So listen very closely.
Officers chased Gardner, caught him. There was a struggle, then gunfire. Gardner shot. Moments later, officers are seen in cell phone.
All right. I'll try to make this point quickly and concisely. This video is already running long. Okay, so this is the person narrating, I presume, is like, a career. He's been doing this for a very long time, right? And we probably wouldn't be hard research to look up who is narrating this particular story. That being said, like, they're in the business of like communication. I think it's also safe to assume that, like, the average journalist, their vocabulary might be just, if only by 1%, is slightly, their vocabulary is like slightly larger than the average person who, let's just say, who doesn't communicate for a living, right? All right, I'm going somewhere with this. Follow me. Listen to how this was worded. I don't for one second think that this was like unintentional, or that nobody like heard this. Like, they obviously, before anything reaches our ears, is like a lot of it's had to go through I'm pretty sure a meticulous approval process, right? At least some superior somewhere, somebody else listened to it and approved it. All right. So my thing is, right, one more time before I say it, I want to know if like somebody is gonna like get it. It's not a pop quiz or anything.
Armed.
Worley says officers chased Gardner, caught him. There was a struggle, then gunfire. Gardner shot. Moments later, officers are seen.
All right. What like, okay, if I knew nothing about this story and this was the first interview that I watched, what I would take away from this is, again, based off of the wording from this journalist, I would take away that, again, they saw black guy with a gun, they approached him, black guy with a gun ran, and then, quote, Gardner shot. I'm gonna let you hear one more time.
There was a struggle, then gunfire. Gardner shot.
There was a struggle, then gunfire. Gardner shot. And then the next detail they provide is that the police are seen giving CPR. My point here is what? If I'm watching, if I know nothing about this situation and I'm watching this video for the first time, take away from their wording, from their description of what happened, that there was a struggle and Gardner shot. Or one can easily deduce, okay, if the whole, if I'm supposed to assume that, all right, from the title of the video, obviously, the suspect / victim was the one who, was slain. All right, somebody can say, okay, duh, like, that's because, it's already understood that, like no officers, like they were talking about, okay, whatever. There's always a smart guy, right? But like, okay, even if that's the case, like, why not say that? I don't know. I don't think it's like going out of your way to say that okay, Gardner was then shot. Again, the one word rule. One word adds accuracy, clarity. Gardner was then shot. Police then shot. Like, when you omit certain words, it's like easily for me or anyone else to just take away, okay, well, Gardner shot. And then the next detail that's provided is, okay, well, he's getting CPR applied to him, which would seem to imply that, all right, cool, he got killed. So I don't know. It leaves room for one to, just at minimum still be murky, still wonder if, okay, did Gardner shoot? Who shot who? So I don't know. I just feel like as journalists, um, like, I can't be the only one that thought of this. And I don't know. I just think that's like a sloppy job of, like, again, one word. Gardner was then shot. Forgive me. That's two words. That's two more words, Mr. Journalist. And like this whole next part, like this whole second part is non-existent. So I don't know. Like, and then, again, one would ask, okay, relevance. Like, what would be their motivation for doing that? If it's nefarious, if it's intentional, why would they do that, Mr. Presser Sean? Okay, Mr. Smart Guy. Glad you asked. Because that's what the media does. Like, they frame narratives. The media doesn't give you news. In case this isn't news to anybody, just, hey, just breaking news. The news doesn't tell you the truth. There's the truth, and then there's a narrative. Okay, a narrative is just a big word for a lie, right? If someone says their version of the truth, like, no, there's only one version of the truth. Your version of it, once you add your version, it becomes a narrative. If I jumped over a log, that's the truth of the situation. Once you say I jumped, and like you add or omit any detail, what I mean? If you say I, skipped over a log, if you say, the log was only, it was really a twig. Like, once you add any of your personal, effects to the story, it at that point ceases to become the truth. That word ceases to be applicable to, what you're telling someone else. And for all intents and purposes, it's a lie. Any alteration, any adulteration of the truth is going to result in a narrative. And that's essentially, the entire point of this already long video. With that being said, I'll just, I'll quickly, we'll get this last video. I don't really have like that. Like, you guys can already kind of like you know, like smell, sense. Like at this point, all of your senses, like fuck spidey senses tingling. Like your senses should be like, on fire. Like you should be offended. You should be offended. Obviously at you know, the blatant, massacre, assassination. But like when somebody tries to lie to you, right? And it's like so obvious, it's like, come on, it's like, yo, for like that's the best you thought I was gonna believe that. Like that's if you don't feel like that at this point and you're still watching, I don't know. Thank you for still watching. I'll just say that. But like at this point, you should have already been feeling like that. Go ahead and play this last video. Look at this last video.
Independent Investigations Division of the Attorney General's Office released the names of the 3 Baltimore City police officers involved in Monday's deadly shooting of a 17-year-old boy. The officers are identified as Detective Thomas Smith, a 4-year veteran, Detective Sharif Kellogg, a 6-year veteran, and Detective Devon Lomax, who has been with the BPD 4 years. The IID did not release the name of the juvenile, saying,
let me fill in a few details for you listeners who are still here. If you're still listening, I appreciate you. That means you actually care. And that's really my whole purpose of doing this. I feel like the least I can do is spread awareness. If you care, anything other than inaction, is like kind of like what you can do. So yeah, let's just get to this. So this particular video, let me excuse me, I wanted to fill in some details real quick that they left out. So there was 4 officers. I don't know why they only mentioned
taken as withholding that information in accordance with juvenile privacy laws. But Baltimore City Police tell 11 News 17-year-old William Gardner is the young man officers shot. A memorial for Gardner is set up near the intersection of North Stricker and West Baltimore Streets where the shooting happened. Security camera video obtained by 11 News shows the moments before the gunfire. Investigative police body camera shows the juvenile with a handgun. The incident started when an officer on patrol spotted the teen, who police say displayed characteristics of an armed person. The officer got into a struggle with the juvenile, who managed to get away. After a short chase, the 3 others
it's getting spooky over here. I dropped the mic. Damn battery almost died. This is like real live, like my first time, trying to like make a YouTube video including other footage. So again, if you're still here, there's zero sarcasm when I say that I have nothing but gratitude and love in my heart for you. If you can only have gotten this far if you cared. Like I just want to reiterate that. And it's not about me. I also want to clarify this. Like I'm not doing this for me, for clicks. To like launch my YouTube career. This is, like I said, the bare minimum I feel like I can do for his mother, for his unborn kid, for his kid's mother, for his family. His aunt was mentioned in one of the videos, like for his homeboys. That whole area of like Baltimore and Cary is like a very close knit, like area. Just everybody, like this is the least I can do. So I just want to make that very clear. Yeah, but let me get this video back. Oh, the other officer, the unnamed officer, that's what I wanted to get to. His name is Zachary Ullman, okay? These I was able to find all of their their website called like Police Watch or something to that effect. I'm gonna try to dig this up real quick in real time. Are the browser still open? Yep. So bpdwatch.com. That's Baltimore, B as in Baltimore, P as in police, D as in Doug, as in D bleep CK eaters. BPD Watch. We got Sheriff Kellogg, Asian Pacific Islander, 40. Yeah, he's been on the force since November 28th, 2017. We got Thomas B. Smith, white male, 40. Been on the force since July 10th, 2016. We got Devin Lomax. No photo of him. You know they was going to have somebody that looked just like us. I'll try to like wrap this up. I mean, this video is already running long. This guy is interesting. So this is the brother. This is the one that looks just like us. You know, you're going to send somebody that looks just like us, do the dirty work. This guy is 23 years old. This guy it's a man, he's a grown man, but he's like 23 years old as a kid. 23 years old, you're a kid. At 23 years old, I was a kid. I thought I knew a lot. I knew very little about life. He's been on the force since he was 19 years old. So I'd be curious to see if he doesn't have like an uncle or father, somebody in the police force. That seems like, you know, I don't know. It just smells like nepotism. And I'm speaking out of ignorance. He could have just wanted to be a cop his entire life and just really, you know, as soon as he turned 18, you know, really that could have just been his whole career, like life goal. And if it was, hey, I'm nobody to judge, but I'm just giving you facts right now. Because this video would run a lot longer if I was to insert you know, my personal feelings, which are gonna leak out anyway. Anyway, this guy's 23 years old. He's been in the force since he was 19, 4 years. He's a detective, which is also interesting. So I don't know like what the, you know, there's like no age thing. Like I don't know. He must be again really good at his job, a really great cop, which what, you know, I don't know what insert your joke there. You know what I mean? I don't know. I can spend a lot of time there and poke a lot more fun. You know, but again, the videos are going long. But Zachary Ullman was the officer who, you know, had this X-ray vision, who they didn't mention here for some reason, but he's the one, I guess, who gave foot chase. You know, so I guess because he didn't fire, you know, he's, you know, not, he's getting kind of like, you know, let off the hook. But I mean, he's the one who, like, I think he's the officer who, I don't know. Like I said, this body cam footage. We're already at a minute, hour and 20 minutes. So let me wrap this up quickly. I just wanted to, like, you know, show you this video. Just so you can see another like main takeaway from this video would be like just that there was like their timing. So like again, you'll see more details when the body cam footage comes out. But it looks like a drive-by. It's Tamir Rice-esque. Rain and Power, Tamir Rice. How would Tamir Rice have been? Pull that up. How would Tamir Rice have been? Because I want to say, would Tamir Rice have been 17? Why do I want to say that? Tamir Rice was born. Okay, he transitioned in 2014. He was 12. It was November 22nd, 2014, before I get his date of birth. So simple math. I'm doing this live. Don't laugh at my math skills. 2014. So he's born in 02. So 2024, he would be 22. Sheesh. Wait a minute. Yeah, this happened when? I'm digressing. Yeah, wow. So yeah, November, in a couple months, will be the 10-year anniversary of this drive-by shooting, this drive-by assassination. Again, not to digress too much, but I'm gonna let the video play, it just gives shades of that. There's no attempt to de-escalate, or there's no progression of tactics. There's no going through anything. There's a pursuit, and then there's shots fired.
Nation's Division of the Attorney General's office released the names of the 3 Baltimore City police officers involved in Monday's deadly shooting of a 17-year-old boy. The officers are identified as Detective Thomas Smith, a 4-year veteran, Detective Sharif Kellogg, a 6-year veteran, and Detective Devon Lomax, who has been with the BPD 4 years. The IID did not release the name of the juvenile, saying it is withholding that information in accordance with juvenile privacy laws. But Baltimore City Police tell 11 News 17-year-old William Gardner is the young man officers shot. A memorial for Gardner is set up near the intersection of North Stricker and West Baltimore streets where the shooting happened. Security camera video obtained by 11 News shows the moments before the gunfire. Investigators say police body camera shows the juvenile with a handgun. The incident started when an officer on patrol spotted the teen, who police say displayed characteristics of an armed person. The officer got into a struggle with the juvenile, who managed to get away. After a short chase, the 3 other officers engaged him. Those officers opened fire, hitting Gardner. He died. Police say a gun was located at the scene.
All right, so I mean, and that's another thing. Again, I failed to mention that. That's just more inconsistencies. Because they're saying you just heard this account, right? I don't want to hear what
Those officers opened fire, hitting Gardner. He died. Police say a gun struggled with the juvenile, who managed to get away. After a short chase, the 3 other officers engaged him. Those officers opened fire, hitting Gardner.
Hold up.
He died. Police.
Hold up. My fault, guys. My fault.
The incident started when an officer on patrol spotted the teen, who police say displayed characteristics of an armed person. The officer got into a struggle with the juvenile, who managed to get away.
All right. So, like, that's clearly not what happened. That's clearly not what Mr. Richard Worley, the police commissioner, that wasn't his narration of events. So, like, were these guys just like, I don't know, not listening to anything? Did they get, their information from a foreign source? Like, I'm just, how can the stories be this ass backwards? Or how can they have the story, it was the same, that it was the press conference that I first played, Richard Worley, Brandon Scott, that was on the same network. So how can a video released 2-3 days later on the same exact network, how do you have the story backwards? So in this narration of events, there was a struggle initially, and then he got away, and then they chased him, and then they caught back up with him and shot him. So, like, it just, At minimum, it speaks to, hey, you guys don't really have the story straight. At maximum, it kind of speaks to cappery. Which one is it? Why don't, if it's this open and shut, why are there so many inconsistencies? And then, like, you would think as the story, like I said, as time goes by, you would think they would sort out the inconsistencies. They would sift out, the we're not sure, the inconclusive details from the facts. They have yet to do it. Apparently, as of this video.
After a short chase, the 3 other officers engaged him. Those officers opened fire, hitting Gardner. He died. Police say a gun was located at the scene. The detectives are with the police department's group violence unit.
So, just quickly, guys, if you're still here, again, I appreciate you. It's been a journey. I'm just figuring this YouTube thing out. Just also spilling out feelings. I haven't really been, I took notes and like I barely have been like looking at them. Just kind of like speaking off of like raw emotion. And like, yeah, I watched all these interviews, over 10 times a piece. That's, the low number. That's the low side. Closer like to 20. But it's like, I feel the same way I felt, the first time I watched. And like from a left brain standpoint, like just from a logical standpoint, it's like I still, if it was my 50th time or my first time watching this, I would still have the same questions. Like, what the bleep? Like, we can all list them all. Like, I want you to list your top, question in the comments. But like, yeah, what is, what's the behavior of an armed person? What's a security check? How did you guys engage him? Or like, who saw that he got a gun? You know what I mean? Like, who's the super cop? So many questions. But again, like I said, look out for the part 2. So this was, I'm making this video just in full disclosure, like this is retroactively, because I feel like I want to address this batch of cappery first before I address, like I said, they did a whole nother 28-minute press conference with the body cam footage, and like they, I have to break them up. We already at an hour 30, right? And I feel like there's a lot more questions, or I feel like this video could be a lot longer if I wanted to. But just again, on that note, I try to keep these closing arguments as brief as possible. I just want you to get offended, get curious, ask questions, like the more you start to pay attention, again, the more you should again, if you don't care, you don't care, you know what I mean? And go back to, Sexy Red or whatever you were doing. But it's like, if you, again, if you made it this far, you should at this point, be already beating me to the body cam footage. You should, ask questions, whether it's this situation, Rain and Power, Sonya Massey, and shout out her family, her 17-year-old son, 15-year-old daughter. Shout out all the fallen kings and queens, prior to them. But just if you're gonna take anything away from this video, I don't care if you subscribe to my channel. I don't care if you share. Ask questions. I don't. The only thing that I care that you do is ask questions. Because if you genuinely ask questions, you're gonna get answers, or the answers that you do get from these demons should offend you and prompt more questions. And hopefully those questions lead you and all of us to more truths and more answers, and more accountability and change, because we're all tired of this, right? We're all like the marching and the hashtags. Um, we're all tired of it. The screaming, the acquittals, the charges, the charges dropped. Um, the not enough evidences, the I'm in fear for my life. I was in fear for my life blanket, automatic, get out of jail free card loophole. Like, we're all tired of it, right? So, like, what you choose to do um, after you click off this video directly affects whether or not you know we see any change. Shalom.